this year, you can too. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code EARLY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code EARLY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Looking for a place to relax and unwind after a busy day? Cigars Lounge at 8th and Q in the Haymarket is the perfect place to enjoy good company, a cocktail, and of course a cigar. Visit Cigars Lounge on Tuesdays for Top Shelf Tuesday and enjoy 50% off select spirits. Cigars Lounge offers Perdomo, San Cristobal, Rock Patel, and more of the top stogie brands that you know and love. But that's not all. If you mention this ad between noon and 5 p.m., you'll receive 15% off your entire tab just by mentioning the ticket. Check out Cigars Lounge today at 8th and Q in the Haymarket.
For 15 years, Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping has been helping Lincoln become healthier, happier, and more fit through our proven combination of kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching. And to celebrate 15 years of success, we're offering you 50% off our next 10-week challenge beginning September 14th. That's 10 weeks of fun group fitness classes and individualized coaching for half off. And at the end of the 10 weeks, someone's walking away with $1,000 for the best transformation. Come check it out. What do you have to lose? Click on the banner at theticketfm.com to learn more. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill or 70th and Vine. And check us out online at fxblincoln.com.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com. Follow the Huskers to the City of Angels when Nebraska plays at USC in November. Book your official Nebraska alumni travel package at huskerfantravel.com. Choose from 2 or 3 night options that include a downtown LA hotel, exclusive welcome event, game day transportation, and the official Husker Huddle pregame party. Add on game tickets for an optional upgrade. Transportation to and from LA not included. Join the official Nebraska alumni trip to see the Huskers play at USC. Spots are limited, so book your trip now at huskerfantravel.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and Truck Month is back. We have absolutely gigantic savings right now at Koppel. They are offering $12,500 off on select new pickups. That is not a mistake. You heard right. $12,500 off list price right now on select new pickups. Those discounted units, though, will not last long. These are all manager specials. You have to come in now, so hurry in down 144th Street or shop online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. Stock number G356093 must trade.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Welcome in to the Corner 3, taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NCAA to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Oh, welcome in to the Corner 3. It has been a hot minute since I've been with you. Wasn't feeling my best a couple weeks ago. And then Nebraska football decided it was pretty important and took over the airwaves here with our coverage for pregame. It's all fine and well. We are back here putting a pause on our conference preview series just because there's a lot going on in the wide world of college basketball. We'll get back to the mid-majors next week, maybe go through the Pac-12 or what we think the Pac-12 is going to be. Just take a look at those teams, those coaches. But there's a lot going on in college basketball and a lot going on in Husker Hoops. Had a great chance to chop it up with my co-host during On the Block, Eric Strickland. He's with me from 2 to 4. I'm with him from 2 to 4, however it is you want to phrase it. Fred Hoiberg had a press conference earlier this week. Might get to some audio from that at some point. But I would definitely recommend you go back and you check out the podcast segment Strick and I did. Would have been either Tuesday or Wednesday. Just search On the Block with Strick and Austin, wherever it is you get your podcasts. You will very easily be able to find it, listen to our thoughts there. Had some more stuff come out in the news, some stuff we haven't gotten fully we haven't fully ingested, haven't fully digested, that I think we can flesh out a little bit here for the next hour or so on the Corner 3. No real time constraints or limits here with the Kansas City Royals on the FM radio dial. And just for those of you who are on stream, you see that I am repping the boys very proudly. Next Royals win or next Twins loss, boys have the greatest turnaround in Major League Baseball history. 56 and 106 the Royals were last year, and now their magic number to make the playoffs is 1. They'll be either the 5 or the 6 seed, but Royals fans, this weekend, or today, tomorrow, Sunday, root for the Chicago White Sox to beat the Detroit Tigers and root for the Baltimore Orioles to beat the Minnesota Twins. That's the rooting guide. Now, as long as the Royals take 1 against Atlanta, they'll be fine. They're in the playoffs. Just win a game. But if you want the 5, if you think that's a better matchup, most likely against Baltimore, you want the Royals to win, to pass the Tigers, have the White Sox lose. I guess you want Minnesota to beat the Orioles and keep them at number 4. If you want Baltimore to jump up to the 3, which I believe is still, it wouldn't be in play for them because division. So probably deciding between Houston or Baltimore. Do you want to be the 5 or the 6 mostly? Either way, heck of a turnaround for the boys. Excited to bring you Royals baseball on the FM radio dial, but extremely grateful, extremely glad that you're here with me on a Friday night. I get it's a Friday night. You're probably, on your way to a football game if you're not there yet. Maybe you're on your way home from a football game. Let me know if you're listening to the ticket and involved in high school football in some way tonight. 402-464-5685. Taking your Nebraska men's basketball thoughts, comments, questions all show long. Again, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's half an hour, 45 minutes. As soon as I'm out of information or thoughts, or you guys are out of thoughts, we will call it a Friday and get you on your way to Nebraska Purdue. So 402-464-5685. We'll start on the men's basketball side here for Nebraska men's basketball. Today is the day that Fred Hoiberg is going under the knife. I believe that procedure has already happened. He explained in his press conference what was going on, right? He had the open heart surgery that ended his NBA career back in 2005. Something went wrong in that procedure, right? He obviously made it off the table, but had a pacemaker installed. Battery life on those things is just about 10 years. So he went back under to get the battery replaced in 2014. And then he said, looking at the schedule for his team and his personal life, today seemed like the best option for him to get that battery replaced in his pacemaker again. On the day he had his press conference, basically he said, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty run-of-the-mill procedure. Don't anticipate anything crazy. He said he should be back at practice on Monday, right? Take the weekend off, get rested, be able to get back in the gym with the guys on Monday. So I assume that procedure has already happened. Thoughts, prayers, best of luck to Fred Hoiberg as he hopefully gets back on his feet sooner than later for Husker basketball. Just announced, I believe this was today, Nebraska men's basketball getting a little bit of a new look. Not a drastic overhaul of the uniforms, but for my money, they do look pretty nice. Not maybe my favorite look, right? Last year's were pretty good. Nebraska kind of arced over the number. Cornhuskers bent underneath. the number there. They put out a pretty cool video. Yeah, it would have been just before noon today. Right now, it's just Nebraska across the chest, white and red. So I assume the road look, the red jersey with the white stripes and numbers and letters will be just the opposite. They're pretty slick. They're pretty cool. You got a red collar leading into the Adidas logo, right about the throat area. Just Nebraska, all caps, number, red piping on the sleeves all the way around, or well, where the sleeves would be, the cutoff on the shoulders there. Shorts are interesting. You have the red kind of piping all the way around the bottom of the short sleeve, and then you have just an N, a block N on either side at the bottom of the sleeve, but you have two vertical lines then on the shorts, kind of framing that N. So not the exact same look as last year. Pretty classy, pretty sharp look there for Nebraska. Even got rink masked in the video. It makes me wonder how long ago this was shot, or I mean, I know rink masked is, walking around rehabbing, but missing the year based with his surgery. No knee brace or anything for him, so either he's doing really well after that surgery, rehab's ahead of schedule, or they shot this a while back. So Fred Hoiberg and new uniforms there for Husker men's hoops. A couple other things to get to for them. How about this, folks? An open scrimmage for Nebraska men's basketball will be taking place on October 2nd. October 13th. Sorry, October 13th is the day. October 2nd is the day that tickets will go back on sale. Huskers hosting an open scrimmage for the first time under Fred Hoiberg. That's a pretty big deal. And you return to the Devaney Center. You were in there. Husker men's basketball was from 1976 until 2013. Tip-off will be at 2 o'clock here. Only 6,000 seats available. Gates will open up at 1 o'clock for the 2 o'clock tip-off here. And here's the statement from Fred Hoiberg. We wanted to do something a little different and give our fans a chance to see the team in action in a competitive setting before our exhibition game. Having it in the Devaney Center will be a different experience for our players and provide a good environment. We had some memorable games with Coach Nee's teams when I played at Iowa State, and I coached in the Devaney Center in Nebraska's final year in the Big 12. Pretty cool that Nebraska is headed back to the Devaney Center. Obviously took some coordination with, wrestling program, with the volleyball program especially. But I think that's an awesome move that Nebraska men's basketball is even, just for a night headed back to the Devaney Center. That'll be a Sunday, the second Sunday in October. That's a really neat event. I'm glad that Nebraska is going back to the Devaney, even if it's just 6,000 capacity. I would highly recommend you do what you can to get in the building and see what you can figure out about this team, right? It's a spring game. It's a scrimmage. You're not going to learn everything. But this Nebraska men's basketball team, I'm fascinated to see how we get the Fred Hoiberg fingerprints on this roster, because they don't have that true playmaking center like they've had most of the last 3 years, really, with Derek Walker and then rink masked. He was talking up Andrew Morgan in that press conference, but said Andrew Morgan's been playing primarily the power forward position, which would lead you to believe Nebraska's going with a two-big lineup, and Braxton Mia at center would be the way I would read into that. Berke Boyuktangel, also Fred Hoiberg listed among the big men. He credited Berke for really improving his pick and pop game and bringing that dynamic to the front court rotation. I'm going to do everything I can to be in the building that day, because there are so many fascinating avenues that Nebraska can take with lineups. And I'm sure you'll see plenty of lineups. I'm sure you'll see teams switch jerseys from time to time, or players switch jerseys to get different combinations. I can't peg who I think Nebraska's starting lineup would be right now. Running two bigs in a lineup is not something I would have envisioned Fred Hoiberg doing, except that he did it last year, right? That was the roster switch, right? Or the lineup switch for Nebraska was Jamarcus Lawrence going to the bench and Josiah Allick becoming the starter. I didn't see that coming from Fred Hoiberg, right? Pace and space, 5 out, get a lot of three-pointers created, and hopefully knock them down at a good enough volume in percentage to make it worth it. Nebraska found some success, though, with the two-big lineup, and all of that hinged on Rink Mass's ability to pass the basketball, shoot the basketball from long range. I mean, Rink was in that 33 to 35% range, so he wasn't an elite shooter, but good enough for a big man, right? He hit some really big ones against Indiana, against Wisconsin, against, I believe, Ohio State was the game that he really went off. That is why I'm so curious to hear that Andrew Morgan is working at the 4. Is Andrew Morgan prototypical Big Ten center size? He's not small, but he's not the biggest guy. And obviously the calculus changes with a guy like Zach Edey out of the conference. So that's a point in most teams' favor, right? Where you don't have a 7'4", 300-pound behemoth holding down some real estate on either block, either side of the lane. But my vision for Andrew Morgan when he committed, and don't forget, he was the first transfer portal signed for Nebraska over the offseason, is that Andrew Morgan was going to be the 5. That he could pick and pop often enough to keep defenses honest, but that he was at his best in the short roll. He's a decent enough passer there out of the pick and roll. But Fred Hoiberg saw, the same thing that I've seen from what film I've seen of Andrew Morgan. He is so good with his back to the basket on the block. Good footwork, variety of moves, right hand, left hand. He's also not afraid to dunk, right? He wants to put people in the rim. When I watched Andrew Morgan's film and I watched how he was used at North Dakota State, I thought that primarily Andrew Morgan would play the center position for Nebraska. But then they go out and they get Braxton Mia, a transfer out of the Washington men's basketball program, who is as true a center as you'll find. Relatively limited game. Decent passer, again, in the short roll. For those of you who don't know, the short roll is if you run a pick and roll with the ball handler and the screener, and the screener then rolls to the basket and catches the ball, not necessarily in a position to shoot, but with a head of steam going downhill. You think about guys like Draymond Green, right? When teams would blitz Steph Curry, try to trap him in the pick and roll. Steph Curry gets the ball to Draymond Green, whether it's at the top of the key with a head of steam, free throw line, mid-paint, anywhere. But what the short roll gives teams opportunities to do is create a numbers advantage there in the half court. So if you have the defender stay attached to the ball handler and the screener is able to beat his man to a spot on the roll, you set up a 4-on-3, which you try to work down to a 3-on-2. That leads to either little dump offs down to the dunker spot, whether that's a bounce pass or a lob, or just an extra pass kick out to the corner for a wide open 3. Andrew Morgan definitely has that ability. Fred Hoiberg said he's been impressed with Braxton Mia's ability to operate in that pocket, right off that pocket pass into the short roll. But that shouldn't be the main part of Braxton Mia's game. You go get a guy like Braxton Mia, 7'1", 250, to defend the rim and to throw down lobs. Nebraska hasn't had that. Strick and I talked about that a little bit when we had our Nebraska men's basketball conversation. Fred Hoiberg did say, yeah, if Braxton Mia's unguarded, we're not totally opposed to the idea of him shooting a wide open 3, but it's not going to be a pick and pop, part of his game. If he's floating or his defender is floating and he's wide open, sure, fine, take it, I guess. But there's going to be higher percentage look for Nebraska than the Braxton Mia 3. But it sounds like, if I had to guess right now, Andrew Morgan and Braxton Mia might both start, with Morgan there at the 4 and Mia at the 5. Berke Boyukengel, factoring into this conversation, I pictured him as a big wing. I didn't see him as a big man necessarily. He's 6'9", 6'10", pretty skinny. I thought he was more in that Igor Milicic Jr. camp, who ends up committing to Tennessee over Nebraska, I believe it was. Lengthy wing, can stretch the floor, not necessarily defense first, but good positional size. But it sounds like Nebraska is willing to use him as a small ball 5, but primarily at the 4. I'm not sure Berke Boyukengel is a starter for Nebraska, at least at the start of the year, but he's been on some NBA mock draft boards as a late second round flyer for a couple of teams. And he's certainly got the talent to work his way into the starting lineup by the end of the year. I think he'd be out of position at the 3. I think if he's playing the 3, Nebraska has gone too big and is sacrificing maybe a little bit too much shooting, ball handling, speed, agility. I think Boyukengel's athletic advantages will show up sometimes at the 4, but if he's a small ball 5, I think that works pretty well. So seeing how the front court shakes out, I'm going to the scrimmage to see that. I'd go to the scrimmage again. It's on October 13th. Tickets open up October 2nd at noon for the general public. But to see how Nebraska uses Bryce Williams, They got Raleigh Worcester out of the transfer portal, true point guard. Aaron Eulis, is eligible, true point guard who transfers over from Iowa. Bryce Williams should not have to be the primary ball handler and initiator for this team. Fred Hoiberg said it. They're not taking the ball out of his hands. Fred Hoiberg thought Bryce Williams truly grew into that role by the end of the year last year. And I hope that's just a 5 to 10% of the time change up. Bryce Williams can get buckets. We saw that at times last year, and I would love to see Bryce Williams unleashed as a scorer. Have Worcester, have Eulis set Bryce Williams up. Let him cook. Let him go to work. I mean, Bryce Williams shot, I think, 38% from three last year. A fair amount of easy looks because of Nebraska's system, but also took a lot of off-the-dribble looks as well. To see Bryce Williams shoot 40% from three, maybe even on higher volume, and he's more focused on scoring instead of, okay, do I have to set someone up now, trying to read the flow of the game and get a feel for that. I'm curious to see. Juwan Gary, is he a 3 or a 4, right? If Bryce Williams is a 1, 2, or a 3, is Juwan Gary primarily a 3 for this team? Is the shot good enough for him to be a 3? Is he comfortable enough handling the ball on the perimeter to be a 3? Or is he at his best as a small ball 4, where he can be more athletic than some of the traditional Big Ten power forwards guarding him? Seeing, Connor Essegian in his encore act at Nebraska, right? The way things ended at Wisconsin, not beautiful, not great. I like the flyer that Nebraska took on him is kind of what it feels like. He did some nasty things to Nebraska at Wisconsin a couple times. So I like Nebraska getting a player with Big Ten experience that can shoot the lights out of the ball. Gavin Griffiths, fascinating flyer. Again, is this a guy that you can run a super mega sized lineup with him at the 2? Is he best at the 3? Is he best at the 4? I really don't know. What's the role for a Sam Hoiberg who's working back from a low ankle sprain? Pretty severe, Fred Hoiberg said, but Sam Hoiberg is on his way back. You think about even like Justin Bolus, preferred walk-on flyer out of Southeast Community College here. Went to Lincoln High, right? Local product. Is he able to fill the Matar Diop role, right? Developmental young big man. Obviously, Nick Janowski, right? I am fully aboard the Nick Janowski train. If you didn't know that by now, you have not been listening to the show. Let me reiterate again. Nick Janowski is going to be a stud. Going to be a stud. Okay. He's probably a bench piece early on in his career. He's probably a bench scorer, but Nick Janowski can fill it up and he can pass. He's like the 7th leading scorer in Wisconsin state history, and that's a really good basketball state. He was the number 2 player in that state behind Con Knuppel, who's 4 inches taller than him. I think Janowski's 6'1", 6'2", and Knuppel's listed at 6'6". Both guys are absolute buckets, right? There's no shame in being the second best player in your state behind a guy like Con Knuppel. Nick Janowski's a stud. Can catch fire from beyond the arc, handled the ball. I think he's more an off-ball player in college, but if he can learn to play the point and shoot and score like that, watch out. So excited for him. Braden Frager, young guy, reclassed. He's at Nebraska maybe a year early than most would have anticipated. Is there a role for him, right? Fred Hoiberg loves his athleticism. He's been working back from some dings, had the wrist surgery, is working his way back from that. Fred Hoiberg likes the frame as well. It's a really interesting team. First 4 out, according to Joe Lunardi right now in bracketology, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point here. So again, that scrimmage for Nebraska men's basketball at the Devaney Center. Tickets go on sale Wednesday, October 2nd at noon. Current season ticket holders, check your email for a pre-sale event there on October 1st. Parking free around Devaney. Again, don't forget that scrimmage is October 13th. There's also opening night in the rail yard. That's coming up a week from today. 7 p.m. It'll take place down there on Canopy Street. I just have to see if I can pop over there and get my eyes on the Huskers. And Nebraska women's basketball news here to wrap us up for this segment. Alexis Markowski earned some preseason honors, the coaches preseason All Big Ten team. She was listed on there. It's a loaded list. Nebraska not even picked in the top 5 of the conference. USC, UCLA, a couple of newcomers to the league picked to win it. Then Ohio State, Maryland, and Indiana. Lauren Betts, Juju Watkins were unanimous picks, but Alexis Markowski, I have to walk back some things I've said about Alexis Markowski, whether it's in person or in private. Alexis Markowski, her numbers have improved every year at Nebraska. Okay, I thought they'd stay pretty steady. But to Alexis Markowski's credit, she's gotten better at pretty much everything she's tried to do at Nebraska. Her scoring average, 13 points as a freshman, 12 as a sophomore, 15.5 last year as a junior. Rebounded 8 boards a game as a freshman, 9.8 as a sophomore, and then averaged a double-double, 10.5 rebounds per game last year, 7.5 defensive rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds per game for Alexis Markowski. Her shooting percentage, 49%, 46%, darn near a break-even 50% last year. That's good. 3-point percentage dipped a little bit on similar volume. She's about a 30% shooter from 3 last year, but 35% for her career. She's taking more shots. She's getting more efficient across the board in a starting role and really a starring role. And now the real test for Alexis Markowski is, what do you look like without Jaz Shelley? Oregon State basically completely schemed Jaz Shelley out of the game I was at in Corvallis in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And Texas A&M did some of that in the first round as well. Nebraska played through Alexis Markowski at times, but it wasn't like she was the number one, no doubt, go-to. What does the relationship between Natalie Potts and Alexis Markowski look like this coming year with another year in a twin post system? Markowski's probably the better floor stretcher there, but she's a force inside. You don't want her floating out on the perimeter too often. What's Markowski's role in bringing along Britt Prince? Highly, highly touted freshman out of Elkhorn North. What's the pick and roll chemistry look like there, right? Alexis Markowski as a senior, it's going to be her team to lead, for better or worse, right? Jaz Shelley, I think most people would say, was the best player on Nebraska's team last year. Alexis Markowski, probably the most consistent, just with her style of play and how much Nebraska looked to get her the ball. Being named preseason All Big Ten is an honor. She's the only Nebraska player here on the list. She also was named preseason All Big Ten by the media as well. Juju Watkins named preseason player of the year by both coaches and media. She's going to be really good. Keep your eyes out for Juju Watkins. But I'm really curious to see what an Alexis Markowski-led Nebraska women's basketball program looks like. We'll go to break here. That's a good spot to throw things to our first break of the show. We haven't gotten to talk about Adrian Wojnarowski retiring from ESPN to become the general manager of his alma mater, St. Bonaventure. What does it mean for the Bonnies? Where did the general manager position come from in college basketball? Is it something Nebraska needs to look into? We'll get into that next segment here during the Corner 3.
In today's digital landscape, the security of your business is non-negotiable. That's why you need better cybersecurity solutions. At Hamilton, we make it our business to protect your network, data, and digital assets with the latest in cybersecurity technology. Our dedicated team of experts has the technology in place to protect what matters most to you and your business. Stay ahead of cyber threats with better cybersecurity protection. Hire Hamilton at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Riddles Jewelry is excited to be celebrating 65 years. 65 years of so many incredible memories celebrating with each of your special moments. In celebration of the 65th Riddles Jewelry anniversary, we will be offering up to 40% off all engagement rings and all diamond fashion jewelry. The excitement doesn't stop there. Riddles Jewelry is also offering 18 months, 0% interest and $0 down financing on all qualifying purchases. Riddles Jewelry has always been known for incredible customer service, one of the largest selections of engagement rings, and don't forget about the on-site jeweler. Come celebrate with us at Riddles Jewelry, your one-stop diamond shop with exclusive Levian jewelry, Pandora Charm jewelry, and more. All at Riddles inside Gateway Mall.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. And Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see a slight chance of showers and storms this morning. Otherwise, probably the mostly sunny skies expected with an afternoon high around 85. Tonight, mostly clear skies with an overnight low around 58. And tomorrow, mostly sunny skies return. We'll see a high around 77. I'm meteorologist Kyle Quick for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Plains Cover Crop is your one-stop seed shop. Call us now for spring and summer forages, CRP mixes, and fall cover crop blends. We do farm-specific consulting for practical and efficient seed blends to fit your geography and goals. With a very diverse inventory, we will tailor a blend just for you. We're also looking for contract growers, and we buy and sell rye. Find us online at plainscovercrop.com. Timeless agronomy practices paired with modern technology. East Highway 20 in Orchard and across Nebraska.
You've seen them come and go. Franchise testosterone clinics that pop up and then whoosh, they're gone. These franchise clinics quickly find out it's not easy to compete with Limitless Male. Limitless is locally owned and operated with a flawless protocol that has elevated them to be the best in men's testosterone replacement and sexual performance. By adding GLP-1s, our patients are losing weight in a healthy way. To feel your optimal best, schedule a free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's a great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays, games of bowling, shoe rentals, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Sea-Doo dealership. Score up to $300 off or a free 2-year warranty on 2024 Sea-Doo Sparks and $500 off or a free 2-year warranty on all other brand new 2024 Sea-Doos. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of September. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with a large selection of motorcycles and watercraft in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome back to the Corner 3. We do this Fridays from 6 to 7 p.m. here on 93.7 The Ticket, as well as theticketfm.com on our free app, streaming for you worldwide. Just search 93.7 The Ticket in your app store. If you missed the show, want to listen back to something, whatever it is, search the Corner 3 with Austin Oerman, wherever it is you get your podcast. Give it a listen, and hit me up on Twitter. You see it at the bottom there, underneath me on the scroll. Austin_Oerman on Twitter, at Austin_Oerman. Always taking your thoughts, your comments, your questions, everything like that. Twitter's pretty much always pulled up when I'm doing a show. So also pulled up right now is the Kansas City Royals and Atlanta Braves Gamecast here. Through 1 inning, no score. It's Max Fried getting the ball for the Braves. Not exactly what I wanted to see, wanted to hear, but you know what? It's okay. Brady Singer has a chance to etch himself into Royals lore. Pitch a winner here. Braves 86 and 71. Royals 85 and 74. 1 win for the Royals or one loss from the Twins away from returning to the postseason for the first time since they won the whole dang thing. That's not the purpose of the show. It's a college basketball show. Last time I'll get distracted here on that. We're talking general managers in college basketball. About 10 days ago now, Adrian Wojnarowski stepped down from ESPN to take over the general manager position at St. Bonaventure. It's his alma mater, but I think a couple things come to mind when I heard that news. Number one, and most importantly, it reiterates the supremacy of college basketball over the NBA. Superior product, superior game, much more fun. Sorry, not sorry, Stricky. So score one, college basketball. I think it says a lot about ESPN that Woj would want to walk away, right? He had one of the most demanding jobs in sports. A reporter, but a different kind of reporter, right? Not a beat writer following a team around, not a general NBA news guy. The general NBA news guy, right? If Woj didn't have it first, he almost felt cheated. He tutored Shams, right, who might be taking over for him at ESPN. I guess we'll have to see. But Woj was the guy agents went to, teams went to get their message out. They went to him first. He came over from Yahoo Sports. But when he stepped away from ESPN, Adrian Wojnarowski had this to say: "It's the thrill of a lifetime to be able to return to a university and community that I love in a role of service to our student athletes, coaches, and institution. I am hopeful that I can bring value in a lot of areas to our basketball program and open doors for our young men's futures in ways both professionally and personally." I'm fascinated by this move on so many levels. If I were a college basketball recruit, I'm probably not going to St. Bonaventure just because Adrian Wojnarowski is there. I just don't see him being that big a recruiting chip. Now that there have been many St. Bonaventure players in the NBA, as far as I know. In fact, let me look this up just while I'm thinking about it. How many St. Bonaventure men's basketball players have made it to the NBA? Let's see here. The most recent one, Jalen Adams in 2018. J.R. Bremer, Isaiah Brockington. Now there's a name. Then that was 2018. Let's go by draft year here. Oh, these are just drafted players. Isaiah Brockington, Jalen Adams, Andrew Nicholson, Jeff Foote, J.R. Bremer, David Vanterpool, Mark Jones, Bob Lanier. Okay. There's a name. 19 players in NBA history have come out of St. Bonaventure University. Is Adrian Wojnarowski really going to change that? I don't think so. But is that the point? Right? Professionally and personally, to me, says professionally. He graduated from St. Bonaventure's communication school, which is pretty well thought of, the Jandoli School of Communication. And I think that is maybe the bigger pull, right? If I'm a student, I want to go learn how to break news, how to be a reporter, how to build relationships, I'm going to go learn from one of the best. If I'm a basketball player looking to work in basketball, if I don't make the NBA, sure, why not go and, try to get close to the general manager, get close with him, get a relationship, and have him vouch for me, whether it's as a scout, a practice team player, just a staff or an organization piece for an NBA team, or even a college team, right? I mean, I know Woj is the NBA guy, and it makes sense that all of his connections, or the majority of his connections that he leverages, would be with the NBA. But let's not act like Woj doesn't talk to agents that have players in college, right? And if he can talk to the agents, he can talk to the coaches. It's not that hard. If Adrian Wojnarowski calls you, you're either going to pick up or you're going to call him back once you know that it's him calling you. So does this do much for St. Bonaventure men's basketball? Honestly, I really don't think that it does. Mark Schmidt has been pretty solid in his time at St. Bonaventure. A rough first year. He went 8-22. Bonnies have only made the NCAA tournament 3 times under him. They've been in the A-10 his entire tenure. But he's 302-226 at St. Bonaventure. Won the conference tournament in 2011-12 to take him to the NCAA tournament. Regular season champs in 2015-16. Qualified as an at-large team in 2017-18. That's a team that went 26-8. And then his best year by far with the Bonnies would have been the year after COVID, right? So not the 1920 season, but 2021. It was a shortened season for them. They only played 21 games. They went 16-5, regular season A-10 champ, conference tournament champ for the A-10, and then made it to the NCAA tournament where they got bounced by a really interesting LSU team. Cam Thomas on that team, Andre Hyatt on that team, bunch of other names there. Since that NCAA tournament appearance, they start the next year ranked 23rd, get ranked as high as 16th before falling out of the rankings, but do go 23-10, 14-18 2 seasons ago before a 20-13 campaign last year. So Mark Schmidt has done a good job with St. Bonaventure. They're not necessarily a huge power player in the A-10, but you got to at least keep your eye on him. I just don't know how much this helps the Bonnies on its face, right? I think it's more the behind the scenes stuff that he can help clean up. I think he might be able to grease the wheels for a slightly better player than St. Bonaventure could have gotten before. But I really think this is all just down the line kind of stuff. It's going to be a grueling, demanding job. It's going to be, right? You don't take a college basketball general manager gig as a retirement gig. You got to be invested. And that's part of what Wojnarowski said in his statement, right? He wanted to spend more time with his family and kids, not be on his phone all the time. Are you kidding me? A college basketball general manager's got to be on their phone all the time. I think he just wanted something different, and no shame to him. No shame in that by any stretch of the imagination. But I just can't imagine that lightening his workload. Now, the general manager position is a relatively new one in college basketball. Really, the first one that I remember hearing about, and not just because it's my second adopted program in Duke basketball, but Isaac Trotter, who's been a guest on the block, even said this when he wrote a piece on this just about a month ago now. He says, Duke may have been the first to put a name on this position when it hired longtime Nike executive Rachel Baker as its general manager just over 2 years ago. More and more teams are finding room for a general manager position on staff. And general manager is a fascinating term to use for it because they're kind of in charge of the roster, but not really. They're not making final personnel decisions. I think it feels to me more like a second director of basketball ops, maybe more focused on players than schedule, than hotel. It seems like an NIL and recruiting position more so than a day-to-day operations within a basketball sense position. But player acquisition is a big part of the game. And that's what I think a lot of these general managers are in place for. So I'm just going to go through Isaac Trotter's article here for some of the key general managers here in the game of college basketball. Rachel Baker at Duke, right, put together a killer transfer class around Cooper Flagg. Got to that in my ECC preview episode, and we'll certainly get to it again here on the Corner 3. BYU, and with Mark Pope leaving to take his job at Alma Mater, Kentucky, they go poach Kyle Smith out of the Phoenix Suns bench. Bring him to Provo. He brings along Doug Stewart to be his GM. Baker Dunleavy at Villanova. Villanova is a program that's struggling right now. Hard to replace a legend in Jay Wright. Let's just say Carolina and Duke made it look a little easier than Villanova has with Kyle Neptune taking over for Jay Wright. You have Laval Jordan in a general manager role. Laval Jordan was the coach at Butler. He's Chris Holtman's general manager at DePaul. I didn't realize that was going to be the case. Jordan will be an assistant coach, but also the general manager. Interesting dual role for him. Laval Jordan still pretty respected in basketball circles. Decent head coaching tenure at Butler. But again, following up the way everything went down from Brad Stevens to Chris Holtman to Laval Jordan, always going to be a tough act to follow, especially with all the jumping around that the Butler did in conferences there. Michigan hired a general manager. Dusty May brought Kyle Church along with him. Again, doing the Laval Jordan thing, assistant coach and general manager. Now, Kyle Church has been alongside Dusty May for a very long time, so that one makes some sense there. John Calipari poached a staffer from Kentucky. Poached might be the wrong word, but took a staffer from Kentucky to Arkansas with him to be the general manager. Chris Woolard is the guy's name. So a lot of the bigger programs, the bigger names in sports are adding general managers. Texas Tech added one. Baylor added one, and I'm sure that's not a comprehensive list by any means. But it's interesting to think about because Nebraska men's basketball essentially tried the general manager thing when Fred Hoiberg first got to campus, right? Think about Matt Abdelmassih. Not a lot of on-court coaching going on, right? Not a lot going on in practice, right? He's around helping out where he can, but Abdelmassih was the recruiting guy, right? That was his reputation when he came into Nebraska. Okay, doesn't work out. You can't really afford to waste a position on your bench in this day and age of college basketball with a non-basketball mind. So Abdelmassih moves on. He goes, and I believe he was an agent in New York for a while. I want to say Octagon. Don't quote me on that. But then guess what? He took over as general manager at St. John's for Rick Pitino. Yeah, that's where Matt Abdelmassih at least was as of last season. Perfect role for him. Player management, player acquisition, have those conversations, build relationships, get to know guys, get them to campus. Yeah, that's his skill set. Fits in pretty perfectly. Given the list that I ran down of the general managers that Isaac Trotter wrote about, I'm not sure having a general manager for your basketball program is necessarily a competitive advantage. You look up and down this list, like those teams have been more successful than not, or they're trying to turn over a new leaf, right? Duke, new guy in charge in John Shire, trying to be ahead of the curve. Baylor, Scott Drew, trying to stay ahead of the curve. Coach Cal at Arkansas. Now or never for him and his legacy, right? Hard to trash a legacy, as long as storied as John Calipari's is. But you got to try something new, Cal, right? It can't just be talent. You got to manage relationships as well. And I thought that would have been a Calipari thing. So maybe this is just an extension of him taking a little bit of it off his plate. Texas Tech, up and down, but pretty consistent NCAA tournament team. As a general manager, Villanova trying to turn over a new leaf and find some way to get Kyle Neptune success. If they move on from Kyle Neptune, I'm fascinated to see where Nova goes. I think it would have been a lot easier to make a big name hire right after Jay Wright left. But if you show a coach that you're willing to go outside of the family, because Kyle Neptune was a longtime Jay Wright assistant before he went to Fordham. If you're willing to show coaches that you went outside of your family, your comfort zone to make a hire, and you have infrastructure in place to help you compete in the Big East, yeah, I think big names would still take a look at Villanova. It's a unique job. I'm curious to see how that one plays out at some point down the line as well. But when it relates to Nebraska basketball, whether it's men's, women's, one, both, or the other, I don't want Nebraska to get, I don't think Nebraska should get a general manager just for the sake of getting one. But it doesn't seem like that's the way college basketball is moving. I think it would be a show of good faith from Troy Dan and Fred Hoiberg to approve that position. To say, yeah, we'll cut you a check to add another position to your basketball staff for roster management, roster retention, turnover, whichever way that program wants to view it. But it's got to be the right person, right? This isn't an on-court coach, so they can't meddle too much there. It can't be just an ego massager, right? This is a person that has to be able to have those tough conversations in a non-coach way. Because it falls on the coaches, right? Recruiting falls on the coaches. Always has, always should, and I hope always will. Because Fred Hoiberg and his staff have to be the ones to have these conversations with players about, hey, this is what you have to get better at. This is what you're good at. This is how we see you. Like it, love it, hate it, take it, leave it, whatever. That conversation first has to happen with the coach. But the general manager can be there to watch film on potential transfer portal targets during the year. Not to reach out to them. No tampering, please, right? We don't want any of that happening. But to watch film, oh, this guy's interesting. I saw his numbers pop in our database. Watch some film. Yeah, if he enters the portal, boom, let's go get him. We want to be the first ones to reach out to him in the event of him entering the transfer portal. GM can follow up on those conversations with coaches. GMs can, I don't want to say be a friend, be a brother, sister, whatever it is to these young student athletes. But I feel like it's a more player forward role, or maybe a way that the coach can work around some of that just natural coach player tension, not divide, not necessarily friction all the time, but there's a natural divide between authority and I don't say subjects, between a coach and his players, right? A coach and her players, whatever it is. So maybe having a general manager is just another way for the coach to get into the locker room or get a different perspective or get the truth out of players. Maybe it is about scouting during the year. Maybe it is about, managing, massaging egos and relationships. I think it would be a sign of good faith for Nebraska to get one. I hope you don't have to drag Fred Hoiberg kicking and screaming into that position. But if he trusts his coaches and even like Luca Virgilio in that role to scout in the appropriate time, to still put together game plans and get on court coaching done, then don't force a general manager just to have one. I would guess in the next 5 years, we're at 50% of college basketball programs have one. I don't know if the NCAA tournament will expand in the next 5 years, if we have the breakaway in college basketball like it's looking like we're heading toward in college football. There should be enough money there for a general manager position for every program. And I think at a, quote unquote football school like Nebraska, or on the women's side, a quote unquote volleyball school, you want to give your basketball program every opportunity to succeed and take advantage of whatever it is that's on the table for you, right? I'd point to, say, Tennessee, right? I still think that's a football first school. Baseball's really come along under Tony Vitello, but they didn't just say, yeah, that's good enough, right? They went out and they got Rick Barnes, very well-respected coach. I'm not sure if they have a GM or not, but they didn't settle for just being a football school. Look at Auburn. Now the football has been fantastic, world-beating, top 10 good or anything, but it's still a football-first school. Maybe a little bit of basketball history with the round mound and rebound Charles Barkley, but with all the focus on football, right, driving revenue just like everywhere else, we get it. They go out and they hire Bruce Pearl and stick with him despite the reputation, NCAA sanctions, and everything. And it's paid dividends for them, right? Auburn is a tough out. Auburn has an identity, has a style in that SEC conference. There's no reason Nebraska should settle for just being a football and volleyball school, right? I'm sure Nebraska can find it in their budget to carve out role for a general manager. And I hope the coaches want that. I think it's going to pay dividends down the road. And I'd rather they not work out the bugs, in crucial seasons, right? Get it ahead of time, work through kinks during the off season, get them acclimated. And you probably are going to know these people coming in, right? It's probably not going to be this big national search. It's probably going to be someone with connections to the program either way. So that's my 2 cents on that. We'll call it a show here. It's been a quick one, but it's been a fun one. If you want to listen back to it, make sure you find the YouTube link, find the Twitter stream, or, of course, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Like it, follow it, subscribe to it, whatever you have to do on your platform to make sure you don't miss an episode. We'll be back next week with another look at college basketball here for the Corner 3. We'll be back pretty early in the morning, 8 o'clock for pregame coverage, A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show ahead of Nebraska and Purdue. It's been a blast. Thanks, y'all, for listening. Talk to you tomorrow morning.